For over 2 decades, blogging has been the #1 way to get traffic to your website. Aside from maybe paid advertising, blogging has allowed for your website to have new relevant information on it that allows for search engines to work in your favor. The reason blogging has been so successful is because it allows for your website to have new and relevant trending information that is searchable online. But as we head into 2024 and beyond, I want to challenge you to consider using podcasting in place of blogging, which is why this video is titled Podcasting is the New Blogging. I'm going to break down for you why and how you can do this and some tips to make it work really seamlessly for you, because I promise you, once you start podcasting instead of blogging, this is going to make things so much easier for you. Hi, my name is Desiree. I'm here to make social media easy for you. Now, whenever we're going on this journey of things that have to do with creating content, we want to make sure that we have the right plan in place. A content plan, if you will. A content plan is going to allow for you to know what you need to create and what goals are attached to that content creation so that you can be effective with your online marketing. Go grab my free content planning worksheet I have for you down in the description below. Now, first and foremost, the reason I think that podcasting is easier than blogging is because you can just talk. Like, I get on these videos and I talk a couple times every single week, and it just makes things so much easier across the board. It's easier for me to just rattle off the information that I have, talking it out, because I talk about this stuff all the time. But when I enter into like blog mode, like how I have to do everything completely changes. Like how we read is so much different than how we actually speak. And podcasting allows for us to kind of take away that formality of writing and just have a conversation explaining what we want our audience to know. What's really great about a podcast is you can take this podcast and turn it into a blog post, which is why the second thing I'm going to give to you as a reason why it's going to be easy for you is you can use AI tools like ChatGPT, Decipher, Kapwing to take the transcript or make a transcript from your podcast and then reformat it into a blog for you to use on your website. Now, there's a lot of different places and processes and ways to do that I'm not going to go into, but just know that you can take your podcast, get a transcript, and reformat it with AI for a blog post that you can then put on your website. This is going to make, in my opinion, creating that content so much easier. And on top of it, it's going to be so much more in your voice and with so much more of your information. A lot of people have been turning to tools like ChatGPT and AI to create blog posts for their website. I think a blog post that's written by AI really loses trust for me as a consumer because I'm not getting their voice, their personalized information. They're just relying on something AI generated, and it's not as personalized as I would like it to be. So when I have the podcast in my voice and I turn that podcast into a blog that I can put on my website, it allows for it to sound so much more like me and have so much more relevant information specific to what I want to say. Additionally, when we embed like the video of our podcast or the audio of our podcast into the blog post, we're going to get that extra oomph of attention from the search engines, because all search engines love multimedia on their blogs because it just allows for the viewer, the person reading and consuming that content, to get more out of it and spend more time in engaging with that content piece, which is what search engines want to see, which again allows for you to have a higher rating on your search. I know this all sounds kind of technical and detaily, but I hope that you are sticking with me through this, because I really think once you get into like the process of doing it, you will really see how easy it is. And of course, we're going to do it later on in this video. What I also really love about podcasting is that you can multi-purpose this content out. I am the queen of work smart, not hard. I want to create something once and use the crap out of it for as long as possible. Like this YouTube video is going to go onto my blog. It's going to be a part of my emails. It's going to be turned into repurposed content that I put onto my social feeds that I can use to draw attention to what I'm talking about. By having this one long form piece of content, and a podcast can be way more long form pieces of content, you are going to be able to really amplify and magnify the effectiveness of that content you're creating so that you can repurpose it in a multimedia kind of way. When you're doing your blog, you can record it as a video, and then what you can do is take those videos and turn them into reels. You can turn them into POW statements, you can turn them into graphics, you can make carousel posts. There are just so many things that you can do with this content to keep it alive, and you can keep republishing it onto your social feeds to amplify its reach. The thing about podcasting is like it's kind of becoming the way that everyone is doing things. If you go look on Spotify or Apple, you'll see a podcast for everyone and from anyone. So I think that it's important for you to do that as well, because it's another way for people to consume your content and your information in a way that they would want to get it. So now that we've talked about podcasting replacing blogging, I think that we should go dive into how you can create a podcast. So the first thing is you want to make sure that you do when you're doing a podcast is you want to know what's your podcast going to be about. It would be so much easier if your podcast could be something like Name of Business Podcast Here. Like, we kind of have to have a purpose related to our podcast that can be helpful. For example, I have a podcast I do. It's called The Funded YouTuber. The Funded YouTuber is a podcast dedicated to talking to YouTubers about their path to a full-time income for them. We're not talking about, tens of thousands of millions of dollars, but what they needed to hit to become full-time and what they're able to do consistently. And there's a lot of different financial ways for that to happen. Well, the reason that this podcast exists is for a brand called Gigastar, which is a company that helps creators get funding from investors. And they needed a way to talk about money and attract their target audience. And by supporting that content with the blog, it works hand in hand. So you need to figure out what content can you make related to your business that can give you a real wide range to talk about. Let's say, for example, that you're a local water restoration company. Like whenever there's mold or fires or floods in people's houses, you guys are the ones that are called in to get that fixed. And you want to use podcasting as a way to easily create content about what you do and how you serve your customers. But having a podcast that's just called Name of Business Here, Restoration Podcast, isn't going to work. So you could create a podcast that's called Stories That Will Drown You, or Ankle Deep, the stories of the home restorations. And you could literally go in and tell all the stories of the people that have had issues and how you fix them and the lessons that your potential customers can learn from them. You could also throw in things that are preventative, 6 things that you should be doing for every turn of the season. You could talk about things I wish that all of my customers knew. These are the things that you have put together and learned because of what you do. But by calling it the name of your business, it's not going to attract the attention that you want. Once you've created that podcast, you can then use it on your blog and your website so that you can get that organic traffic, because you're going to want to optimize it effectively with the right keywords, the right titles, and of course, having that fresh content on your website is going to help you attract organic traffic. That way, when you're pairing it with the other things that you're doing, it can work really well for you. Now, once you've kind of figured out what your podcast is about, the title of it, all that kind of stuff, you need to go claim everything. I highly recommend when you're getting started, just do Spotify for podcasts. It's very easy. It used to be known as Anchor, and now it allows you to host everything that you're doing. You can put your RSS feed in there, and then it can go to all of the places like YouTube, to Apple, to Audible, all of the places. And you're able to distribute your content far and wide, in addition to what you're doing with your website. The third thing I'm going to suggest that you do is connect with your web developer or the person on your team or your office that's in charge of your website, so that they have a system for integrating in what you're doing with your podcast into your website. Now, 4, we need to talk about how you're going to record your podcast, which is where our sponsor, StreamYard, comes into play. Now, StreamYard allows for you to do so many things with video creation, but I use it very specifically, and I have for probably over 5 years done it for my podcast. I had a podcast before called Marketing for Your Boring Business, and now I have the Women of Video podcast that I use it for every single week. What I love about it is not only is it easy to use and browser-based, I can create really high quality, high definition video content for myself and also for the people that I'm interviewing on the podcast. I can bring them in, we can ask all of our questions. It records the files locally onto my computer and to theirs, and then I get all that source video to my cloud through StreamYard. And it's not so I don't have to go live, even though it's an option in the settings. I can literally just hit recording, get the link, send it out, put my branding up, and do all of this stuff. I also have a lot of tools available to me in StreamYard that allow for me to maybe make it look nice. I can do overlays, backgrounds, I can add in music, I can put videos in, if I want to have a video introduction or commercial for my business in the podcast. There's just a lot of things that are great. And when you work in a company where maybe you need a remote producer, someone like myself that we do all on social media, we can remote produce this for you. We can be on the back end behind the scenes making it all work while you do what you do, which is tell your stories and connect with your audience. And then you can distribute the content where you want it to go. You can repurpose it to different social networks, like over to Instagram, and turn it into clips and shorts and all this kind of stuff. So StreamYard is the tool I would highly recommend that you use whenever you're thinking about recording, because it has everything you need all in one, and it allows for you to have a really professional browser-based solution. No matter what it is you're doing and no matter where you are, you can use it. You can check out StreamYard for free in the description down below. Now, once you have created your podcast, you just have to download it and do any editing that you might want to do. There's a whole slew of things you can search up here in YouTube to find how to edit your podcast easier. Honestly, I would just use a simple AI tool. Again, Kapwing does a really great job of removing all your ums and ums. You can do your closed captions, you can get your transcripts, and it just makes it really easy. And of course, Kapwing is free up to a certain file size. So just keep it simple for yourself and just really focus on the two main things, which is creating really great valuable content for your customer that you can, number two, repurpose over into a blog on your website that you can optimize for maximum reach. Now, here's the thing. When we're talking about social media marketing as a whole, it's important to note that social media is not a marketing strategy. So what does a marketing strategy look like? I want to watch the video I have for you right here. I'm going to break down what a marketing strategy looks like to you online in 2024.